Chapter 6, we finally get to hear from Matt, Jet's companion. I graduated third in my class at Stanford. Of the man and woman who finished ahead of me, one had already has a Nobel Prize, the other a MacArthur Genius Grant. When I left college, I had job offers from Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and every tech startup in the world. I turned them all down to work for Vladimir Baranov. He's the biggest rock star in Silicon Valley, and his company, Fuego, dominates hardware, software, mobile, internet, cryptocurrency, cybersecurity, and at least a dozen fields nobody has ever even heard of yet. When the next big thing comes along, Fuego will be right there on the cutting edge, and as one of their top young executives, I have my finger on the pulse of an interconnected planet. Except I don't. I'm not rolling out new apps and products to take the world by storm. I'm not dreaming up the next innovation people don't yet realize they can't live without. My job, essentially, is babysitting Vladimir Baranov's son. What's that like? Picture being a jailer to Harry Houdini. Multiply that by 500. Jet's 12, Ivory says dismissively. Don't be overdramatic. If you weren't such a heavy sleeper, you would have caught him before he ever got out of the cottage. I'm standing outside the Welcome Center with Magnus Vellini and Ivory Novice, his number 2. We're supervising the loading of the Dance Dance Revolution machine onto the truck that's come to take it away. Ivory helps. She's stronger than both shippers put together. The jet ski and the ATV are already on board, along with the drum set and the 3D printer that arrived earlier today. So what you're saying, I tell her shamefaced, is that this is my fault? Fault is not a word we use at the Oasis, Magnus interjects in his quiet voice. Blame helps no one on our quest to become whole. No one is at fault unless we are all at fault. Collectively, we find solutions and move on. Magnus talks a good game, but there's nothing collective about cleaning up the mess Jet made. I'm the one who had to cancel everything he ordered, which wasn't easy because he used several different accounts, so I was never quite sure I'd gotten it all. I'm the one who had to arrange with Fuego to play the cost of shipping and restocking, to explain to the boss that his son broke into the Welcome Center, repossessed his phone, and went on a shopping spree. At first, Magnus wouldn't even let me go online to undo the damage because internet use is against the Oasis policy. But then people started tripping over all the packages and crates. Eventually, Ivory argued that I'm not technically a guest because I'm only here to be the keeper of Jet, so Magnus gave in. At last, the shippers finished tying down the Dance Dance Revolution machine and the truck starts away. It isn't even out of sight when a delivery van passes it on the southbound lane, groaning under the weight of something heavy. I'm not ashamed to admit that I run after the departing truck, waving my arms and shouting, "Hey, wait, come back, we've got one more thing." They never even slow down. Oh well, there wasn't much room in that truck anyway. I slink back to the Welcome Center just in time to hear the driver call to Magnus and Ivory, "Which one of you two ordered the hovercraft?" Obviously, they refuse delivery and the van departs. Magnus regards me in concern. "You don't look well. You're panting and sweating. Your face is red. You ate some of the meat, didn't you?" I'm too flabbergasted to reply. Of course my condition has nothing to do with trying to outrun a transport truck in a 95-degree heat. It must come from a few mouthfuls of unauthorized brisket. But for some reason, the founder's open, honest expression breaks me down. A little, I confess. It was right there in the cottage. It seemed a shame to waste it. Weakness is nothing to be ashamed of, Magnus assures me. Only shame is you should meditate on this as soon as possible. Schedule a private session with Ivory. Ivory has a different opinion. I'd be happy to work with Matt, but he's not the problem. He's only here because of Jet, and Jet doesn't belong. This is a place of wellness, Magnus says firmly, which is something everyone deserves. I agree, his second-in-command counters, which is why Jet Baranov has to go. I have nothing against him personally, but he undermines our entire mission here. He brings in meat, Ivory indicates me, and other people eat it. He makes trouble with the pedal boats, and suddenly the Carrigan and Buckholes boys are involved. He burglarizes the Welcome Center and recovers his phone when he knows it's forbidden. That only proves how much Jet needs what we offer here at Oasis, Magnus argues. Not when his presence makes it impossible for us to offer it, Ivory insists. There's harmony here that comes from everyone buying into our methods and our rules. Jet Baranov is a disruptor. He would spoil it for everyone. Disruptor? People use that word to describe Vladimir Baranov when he first started Fuego, and it revolutionized the tech universe. To hear Jet called that gave me a jolt. Now just a minute. As mad as I am at the kid, I have to speak up for him. You're talking about a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old who commands hundreds of thousands of dollars buying power to turn this place upside down practically overnight. Magnus raises both hands. Enough, he says in that soft yet commanding tone of his. The boy stays. Of course, I understand the unique challenge he presents, but we will win him over. He will be whole. You'll see. I can't help thinking this entire place could be a hole when Jet gets through with it, as in a smoking crater. That's what happens when you underestimate a Baranov. I'm still bathed in sweat and limp as a rag when I finally drag myself back to the cottage. When I step inside, I'm surprised to find Jet slumped on the couch staring off into space. On second inspection, I realize that's not true. He's actually staring at the empty spot on the wall where a TV could be if we had one. I thought all the kids were ziplining today, I tell him. I was going to go, he drawls in reply, but then I made a list of all the things I'd rather do, and this was on it, along with being torn to pieces by a mountain lion and dumpster diving behind a nuclear plant. Only a billionaire's son could compare ziplining to being mauled by it to death. I can't resist commenting. Sorry, the entertainment options aren't up to your expectations. I don't accept your apology. But it isn't all gloom and doom, Luke Skywalker, I go on. Your hovercraft arrived today. So help me, he actually looks excited for a moment. Then reality sets in and his face falls. You sent it back? What were you going to do with it, I demand. Fill it with kids and try a prison break? It was only a mini, he says, like that makes it okay. Maximum 2 riders. Anything bigger wouldn't have been practical. Practical, I choke. Could there be anyone alive who understands the meaning of the word less than Jet? All I can do is hold myself back from going absolutely ballistic at the kid. And it's not because his dad is my boss that I don't do it. Mr. B authorized me to be stricter with Jet. Actually, he ordered me to. In a way, that's a problem. I like Jet. I honestly do. And I know this is a crazy thing to say about the son of one of the richest humans in history, but I feel sorry for him. Sure, he's surrounded by unimaginable wealth. Yet on some level, he has to understand that nothing he accomplishes in his life will ever compare to what his father has built. His parents don't have any time for the poor kid. His father's every nanosecond is taken up with Fuego, and his mother is always half a world away with orthodontists without borders. If the nannies and au pairs of Silicon Valley had a union hall, Jet's picture would be the dartboard in the break room. And for good reason. He's gone through dozens of them. It all led up to that faithful holiday party when I got a brilliant idea to catch the boss's eye by befriending his son, who was snatching strands of tinsel from the tree and using them to spell out bad words in the frosting on the cake. And catch his eye I did. The fix I'm in is 100% of my own making. I'm the best coder at Fuego, but those skills are a dime a dozen compared with the ability to keep Jet out of trouble. Well, I picture the ruined pedal boat hung up on the wrong side of the river. Mostly out of trouble. Anyway, I hope you've learned your lesson, I tell him. Talk about chaos. Magnus wouldn't give me access to my laptop until I explained it was probably going to show up on his doorstep if I didn't cancel all the sales. Do you know what a hassle it was to track everything down you ordered and void it all? He looks up at me lively. How do you know you caught everything? That brings me up short. Are you saying there's another hovercraft coming? Or maybe a B-52? Jet grins, walks into his own room and sits on his bed, adjusting the blanket so that it hangs on the floor. Looking back on it, I should have remembered. I should have thought to check what was under there. But then things got crazy. How was I supposed to know?